The diplomatic chamber of the Zethari flagship gleamed with bioluminescent patterns that pulsed like a living heartbeat. Hercules stood at attention, his worn Earth Defense Force uniform a stark contrast to the elegant crystalline architecture surrounding him. He had been summoned here without explanation, pulled from his duties as humanity's liaison to the Galactic Council. Queen Azravel entered with the grace of starlight-given form. Her species, the Zethari, were renowned across 70 systems as master diplomats and keepers of ancient knowledge. She was tall, her skin shimmering with scales that reflected every color imaginable, and her four eyes held a wisdom that made even seasoned admirals feel like children. "Commander Hercules," she said, her voice carrying harmonics that the translator implant struggled to capture. "Thank you for coming, Your Majesty." He bowed slightly, military precision masking his confusion. "How may I serve?" The Queen's expression was unreadable, but something in her posture suggested uncertainty, fear. In 3 years of working with the Zethari, Hercules had never seen the Queen display anything resembling anxiety. She reached into the folds of her ceremonial robes and withdrew a piece of what looked like crystallized energy, the Zethari equivalent of paper. On it was a drawing, clearly made by a child's hand. The colors were vibrant, the lines enthusiastic and imprecise, but Hercules's blood ran cold when he saw what the drawing depicted. It showed a human figure in an EDF uniform, his uniform, complete with the distinctive scar on the right sleeve from a plasma burn. The figure stood on what appeared to be a space station, surrounded by smaller beings that looked distinctly Zethari, and in the human's arms was a small Zethari child, wrapped in what the young artist had clearly tried to render as a thermal blanket. "How does my daughter know you?" Queen Azravel asked, her voice tight. "Princess Ilan withdrew this 3 days ago. She has never met you. She has never even seen a human before our species made first contact 6 months ago. Yet she drew this with perfect detail, down to the marking on your uniform sleeve." Hercules stared at the drawing, his mind racing backward through time, through memories he had tried to bury. "What year is it, Your Majesty?" he asked quietly. "By your calendar, 2287. He closed his eyes. "Then it hasn't happened yet. Explain." It wasn't a request. Hercules took a deep breath. 3 years from now in 2290 there will be an incident. A dimensional rift will tear open near the Kepler station. The Zethari diplomatic vessel carrying the royal family will be caught in the event horizon. The Queen's scales rippled, colors flashing alarm. "I was stationed there," Hercules continued, "part of the emergency response team. By the time we reached your ship, the rift was collapsing. The hull was breaching. Most of your people were already." He couldn't finish. "But I heard crying, a child. I found her in the royal quarters, alone, trapped behind a collapsed bulkhead. Ilanwe," the Queen whispered. "I didn't know her name then. I just knew I had to get her out. The rift was pulling everything toward it, debris, atmosphere, everything. I wrapped her in a thermal blanket and held on. We barely made it back to the station before the entire ship was pulled through." "And the rest of the royal family?" Hercules met her eyes. "I'm sorry." The chamber fell silent except for the gentle hum of the ship's systems. The Queen's scales had gone pale, cycling through colors Hercules had never seen. "But this hasn't happened," she said finally. "You said it's 3 years away." "Yes, then we can prevent it. We can avoid Kepler Station, reroute our diplomatic missions. I don't know if it works that way." "Your Majesty, time, causality. Humanity is still trying to understand dimensional physics. But maybe," hope crept into his voice, "maybe that's why Ilan withdrew it. Maybe she's remembering something that now won't happen." Queen Azravel studied the drawing again. "You saved her life. In a timeline that may never exist. You risked everything for a child you didn't know. From a species you'd barely met. She was a child," Hercules said simply. "That's all that mattered." The Queen's scales began to shimmer with gold, a color Hercules had learned meant deep respect. "Humans," she said softly, "your species has only been among the stars for a decade. So many of the elder races dismissed you as primitives, as warmongers. But I see now what others failed to notice." "What's that?" "You run toward danger when others flee. You protect the vulnerable even when logic demands you save yourselves. You are terrifyingly irrational in the most beautiful way possible. She folded the drawing carefully. The Galactic Council needs to understand what humanity truly is. Not your weapons, not your technology, but this your reflexive compassion. Even across the boundaries of species and time itself. I was just doing my job, Your Majesty. No, Commander, you are being human. And that, I am learning, is something extraordinary. A small voice called from the doorway. Mother. They both turned. Princess Ilonwa stood there, no more than 6 in Zethar years, her scales still displaying the softer colors of youth. She looked at Hercules, and her eyes widened. It's you, she exclaimed, rushing forward. The man from my dreams. You're real. Hercules knelt down as the young princess approached. She reached out and touched the plasma burn scar on his sleeve with one small finger. You kept me safe, she said, wonder in her voice. In the scary place with all the noise and the pulling. You kept me safe, Hercules' voice caught. I'm glad you're safe now, Princess, Ilonwa smiled, then suddenly hugged him and gesture that shocked both Hercules and the Queen. As Zethari were not a physically affectionate species, but the little princess held on tight. Thank you for finding me, she whispered, even though it didn't happen yet. Over her head, Hercules met Queen Azuravil's eyes. An understanding passed between them, a promise. Whatever lay ahead, whatever dimensional anomalies or temporal paradoxes they might face, they would face them together, because humanity had taught the galaxy something new. Some connections transcend time itself. Some heroism exists in potential, in the choices not yet made, but already remembered. And sometimes, the future's gratitude arrives before the deed is done.